Hi, I'm Dr. Tim Rice, and I want to make one very important point. That point is this: before you send your child off into the world, before you send your child off to college, you need to deal with the worldview issues that they're going to hear in Psych 101 in college. Surveys reveal that a majority of Christian students walk away from their faith within 1 year of entering college. Before I can make my point, I think it's important that we understand what it is that we're talking about. Just what is psychology? When you hear the word psychology, what do you think? Do you think about psyching people out? Do you think about being able to manipulate or control people? When you hear psychology, do you think Prozac or Ritalin or both? You need to know psychology can become idolatrous. Psychology can divert attention away from godliness to worldliness. There are some good, honest, thoughtful Christians who have very, very strong negative opinions about psychology. But there's a lot that we study in psychology that's a lot more earthy. How it is that our eyeballs work, how it is that the brain operates. Why am I left-handed and not right-handed? What's the best way to teach? These are all part of psychology. Everything that psychology studies is influenced by your worldview perspective. There are 4 worldview issues, 4 worldview lenses that your students should be prepared to recognize and discern when they get to Psych 101 at college or university. Because Mom, Dad, your kids are going to take psychology if they go to college. Or they're going to pick up a copy of I'm Okay, You're Okay at an antique bookstore. But they're going to get exposed to psychological theories. If you're like me, you believe in one triune God, omniscient, omnipresent, self-existent, eternal, the beginning and the end. Do you recognize these names? These are some of the fathers of modern psychology. An atheist is not a strong enough word to describe some of these guys. They were openly hostile and viewed their work as a replacement for religion. Sigmund Freud said this. He called organized religion a, quote, universal obsessional neurosis, infantile helplessness, and regression to primary narcissistic expression of neurotic tendencies. Now, I'm not quite sure what that means exactly, but I don't think it was complimentary. The biblical worldview of creation, an orderly world of God, was replaced by a naturalistic explanation of the world. And of course it followed that all discussions of how we work and how the brain works and why we behave the way we do would be explained in naturalistic terms and not with reference to God or creation. Number 2, your view of the nature of man. A Christian worldview sees man as a sinner by choice and by nature, in open rebellion against God. A Christian worldview sees sin as the beginning point of understanding and of helping and of fixing people. And that stands in stark contrast to the atheism that is still predominant in college classrooms today. The third component of worldview has to do with your view of right and wrong, your morality. A Christian worldview adheres to defined rules for living as laid down in the Bible. In modern psychology, where there are no moral absolutes, self-esteem is the highest goal for all people. Guilt and shame and suffering are absurd man-caused disasters. to be avoided at any cost. Modern psychology's treatment of gender, family, sexual, and social issues are often, very often, at odds with a Christian view of those moral questions. Epistemology. How is it that we know what we know? Now in Psychology 101, there's only one way to know, and that's by repeatable, verifiable, scientific method experimentation. The Christian worldview recognizes that we can know truth from special revelation. Sure, God reveals himself through nature, but he also reveals himself in his word, the Bible, through Jesus Christ. And he also reveals himself in the workings of the Holy Spirit in the world. Have you ever been to a Barnes & Noble? The last time I was in a Barnes & Noble, there were 4 rows of books. Self-help, psychology, spirituality, 5 ways to get closer to God, 10 ways to get closer to God and get rich while you're at it, 7 ways to get closer to God and lose 20 pounds while you're at it. Psychological teachings are heard more and more from the pulpit in churches everywhere every Sunday. Another reason why I think it's important that your child be prepared to recognize and discern at the worldview level. Another point I think that is important for you to understand, Mom and Dad, is that psychology is one of the most popular majors, not just among non-Christian students, but among all students, including Christian students. Most medical schools, teachers' colleges, even Bible colleges and seminaries offer psychology courses. Do you agree with this statement? Darwinian macroevolution imposed itself on the Christian understanding of life, biology, and then tried to exclude anything Christian. We'll consider this. Darwinian macroevolution imposed itself on the Christian understanding of man, psychology, and then tried to exclude anything Christian. I know you're dealing with that in your biology class, but how are you dealing with that in psychology? And you ought to study it with my book, Homeschool Psych, Preparing Christian Homeschool Students for Psychology 101, www.homeschoolpsych.com. That's www.homeschoolpsych, P-S-Y-C-H, all one word, .com. So Abigail, when it's time for you to study psychology, where are you going to go?
www.homeschoolpsych.com.
www.homeschoolpsych.com.
When it's time for you to study psychology, where are you going to go?
www.homeschoolpsych.com.
Where?
www.homeschoolpsych.com.
www.homeschoolpsych.com.
Where?
I don't know.